welcome everybody. Welcome to Benestar. My name's Alex Gorman. I'm one of the clinicians that work for the organisation. And I'm aware that during these last months, we've all been dealing with a very serious episode of what we call COVID-19. And that's affected our whole country and the world, really. And so in this series, I'm going to be talking to some of the staff who are working with people who've been affected by COVID. And I'm going to start by talking to two of our staff members, Stella Savvides and Beulah Joseph. So Stella, how have you managed that, like in terms of your own self-care? What have you done to sort of keep yourself going?
Well, I've tried to stay, because one of the good things, I guess, for this is that we're no longer commuting to work and from work, right? So trying to get those small time frames to take care of yourself, maybe do some walks. I haven't always been good with it, honestly. At the beginning, it's been building up more recently, and I found that I'm creating a routine for myself that makes sense for me. I'm taking time for myself, making sure that I give myself the okay. You know, a lot of the times we're saying, oh, don't watch TV because you've just done that too much, or don't, you know, go out of your way to take care of yourself, what you need. But sometimes it's okay to say, you know what, this is what I need today, and it's okay, and just take time to do that.
So Beulah, what about you? What's been your experience of this period under COVID, and what have you done to support yourself?
So I think what I've been talking a lot about with people, and what I've realised myself, is that working from home pre-pandemic to working from home now, they're very different. Yes. And so the routines that we had pre-pandemic, I used to work very efficiently from home. I really enjoyed it, and I'd take regular breaks, make sure I was eating and drinking water. I had a really good routine. However, these days I'm finding it's very, very difficult to maintain that routine, that pattern. And so one of the things that my team and I have done, we have daily wellbeing goals. So we'll check in at the start. What's your goal for the day? And for me, it has been actually having lunch away from my computer. And for some of the others, it might be going for a run at a particular time. And and then we try and check in at the end of the day as well, just to hold us accountable to looking after our well-being.
That's interesting, Beulah. How have you managed having the children at home?
Well, my heart really goes out to those with primary school age kids or younger. I think that will be really, really difficult. I have a teenager, so my challenges are different. Keeping her engaged, and she's getting sick, of course, of sitting in front of a computer all day long, not being able to interact with people. So trying to keep her engaged, trying to have realistic expectations of what is possible while homeschooling in a pandemic. Reminding her too, for all of us, my husband's working from home as well, for all of us to have regular breaks, regular meal times, to laugh together, and not let the irritation or feeling claustrophobic get on top of us.
Yeah. And Beulah, what about you? What have you noticed in terms of sort of the sense of anxiety that's there, and what people might be able to do to help themselves?
I think one of the biggest challenges is what we touched on earlier, in the sense that there are no boundaries now unless we create them. And so for those who are struggling to create them, that can add a whole another layer of difficulties and anxiety. The unknown has always been something that we have struggled to sit with, to accept, and to work through. And in this scenario, it has really escalated. So I think we need to really practice being aware of what is happening for us within, really having a moment to reflect, what is happening for me now? Because the feelings of anxiety are normal. Emotions are normal. We are human beings. We're going to experience emotions, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. The question is more, what do we do with the emotions? And so that's where we have the opportunity to make some good, healthy decisions for ourselves. So I think normalizing that, yes, this is a situation which, really triggers our anxieties, and that's okay. What can we do about it? So rather than rushing and hoarding, panic buying, snapping at people, how can we find appropriate, healthy outlets for what we are experiencing?
Yeah.
And so that's where we set those boundaries for ourselves.
Yeah. And so, Beulah, if you had somebody who was coming to you who was quite anxious, what sort of tips or ideas or strategies might you give them to deal with that anxiety? It might be quite serious. What would you be recommending?
Often with anxiety, the first step is breathing. It's the very first thing that you can sort of lock into, because what happens when we get anxious, our breathing gets shallow and fast. And so starting to become aware of how we're breathing, not really controlling the breath, but just being aware of how we're breathing, which parts of our body are expanding as we take a breath in, what it feels like for the air to go into our bodies and come out of our bodies. And then gradually starting to deepen and slow the rate of breathing down. When we can start to do that, then we can start to slow our minds down and start to become a bit more aware of what's actually racing around there. And then we can start to make some decisions. What are the things that I want to focus on? What are the things that aren't helping me that I can let go of?
Right. Yeah, that sounds good. Stella, did you want to add anything else to that? Some of the strategies that we might be using with people who are quite anxious?
I think Beulah said it. Sorry. I think Beulah said it. For me, the most important thing is identifying and normalizing those feelings. So taking the time to actually take a step back, see what are you feeling? What are those emotions? Normalize them. Understand that, everybody's going through that, and it's okay for you to go through that. Figuring out what we can and cannot do in that situation. Try to get other outlets for that anxiety. Figure out the ways you can support your family or the ways you can support yourself through the difficulty, and just getting other outlets, getting that thinking outside the box mentality for finding ways to relieve that stress for yourself.
I just wanted to move on now to the whole idea of being prepared to go back to work. What are some of the issues that people need to be thinking about, and particularly if they're still feeling anxious or they might be feeling quite flat? What do they need to be thinking about, Stella? I'll start with you, in terms of the return to work and protecting themselves as they do that.
Well, I think it is the most important thing is probably being vocal about their worries to their managers, trying to be transparent and ensure that the information goes out as well. It's not a time to sort of put yourself in a box and say, because this is what's happening, I need to adapt to that and I need to do that. We need to do what we're comfortable with. A lot of the times we have clients asking us, what if they make me go back, or I'm not ready? What about public transport? What about, so there's so many what ifs, so many scenarios that they're not comfortable with. So just be vocal about it, not in a, in a nice way, be vocal about it. Make sure that your managers are understanding how you on the ground are experiencing this anxiety of going back. There's a lot of people who want to go back, which is great. They need to get out of this isolation. Not everybody has a family. Some people have been stuck in at home doing not a lot of interacting with others except virtually, which I guess was probably a blessing. But the most important thing is just try to see and take a bit of a inner perspective to see, what do you want to do? What are you comfortable to do? Voice it. Make sure that you're doing it. A lot of parents are finding, I'm loving homeschooling. I got to be in touch with my kids more. I got to do a lot more things, but yes, it has been a barrier to me achieving more at work. So try to find those things, like who are you in this scenario? What are you most comfortable doing? And I'm not saying never send your kids to school because you've loved homeschooling, but it's more try to figure out how to achieve in the new world, again, how you can achieve those things with the return into the office, the return to school.
Yeah, so you're really talking about being able to have those honest and transparent conversations with our managers. Some people may need some help to actually work out how they're going to do that if they haven't perhaps had such a close relationship with their manager, and others it'll be a lot easier. So just being able to frame up and, you know, prepare that conversation sounds like it's an important thing that people may need to do. Yeah. What advice would you give for people who are really suffering, like really having quite a lot of anxiety or quite a lot of, say, depression? What sort of advice would you give them? Let's start with you, Beulah.
I think it's very important to keep in mind that social distancing does not mean not connecting with others. If you are not feeling good, if you are struggling, please reach out to the people around you, your loved ones, definitely to us. We're more than happy to be part of your journey, to support you in your journey, but definitely to reach out. It's not a failure to ask someone to listen to you, to ask for some ideas on how else to deal with things. It's actually getting the right people in place to give you the right sorts of support. And that's actually probably the best way of dealing with the situation. It's the most proactive way. So it's definitely not a failure to ask for help. It's the wisest decision I think anyone can make.
Yeah. And Stella, what thoughts do you have for people who are really suffering at this time?
Yeah, sorry. Absolutely agree with Beulah. Reach out. It's the hardest, but the most important thing to do, especially when you're feeling alone. So do reach out. Know that people are waiting for you to reach out. Reach out to us. Reach out to anyone. Reach out to your GPs. Reach out to whoever you think will be there, and I promise you that you'll find that it will work for you. It will work for the best.
Yeah, that sounds great. I think it's important too that there's information available for people. There's information on our website. There's information on places like the Black Dog Institute, and so there's lots of things that can help people. And then on the basis of that information, they can be encouraged to move to the next phase. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you, Stella, for your time today. It's been really interesting. And Beulah, you as well. It's lovely to meet you on the phone, or sorry, on LinkedIn. It's been really nice to spend the time with you exploring these areas. And I hope it's been helpful for other people, being able to hear some of your thoughts and some of your ideas and strategies. So, yeah, best of luck for your own personal journey through COVID, as well as your professional lives going forward. You're going to be very busy.
Thank you, Alex. Lovely to chat to you today.
Lovely to chat to you. Thanks, Stella. Bye-bye.